What do you think Tesla is likely able to do now that it wasn't perception-wise last week?
Well, it's a watershed moment because Musk doesn't just make this trip just to do it, because if this could open up FSD in China, which I view as unlocking what could be really the golden opportunity for them when it comes to FSD and autonomous in China, which has been a missing piece in the puzzle.
Well, Dan, Steve Engel here. Let me jump in and ask. There's no doubt that Tesla needs China. With Elon Musk making that surprise visit. But does China need FSD? I was at the auto show. I saw all these new range of EVs. Hadn't been back to the auto show in 4 years because of COVID, and the technology has rapidly improved here, where a lot of these technology companies, whether it's Xiaomi or Huawei or others, are into this space. I'm going to go later today in Daxian District and get a test drive of autonomous robo-taxis by Pony AI and Toyota. Does China need FSD from Tesla?
Well, look, I mean, Musk's most followed person probably in the world. And Tesla, I view as a trophy case for Beijing. And that's why Musk is there, because despite what we've seen in terms of just the massive competition domestically and so impressive from BYD and others, China needs Tesla, just like Tesla needs China. And I think this is an important visit, especially in what I believe will be a rebound in China for Tesla. But FSD, that's the golden goose. That's what Musk is going after here.
Is there a risk to this relationship, though, between Tesla and China? Dan, I wonder, because just given the geopolitics right now, I'm guessing some of these DC hawks, China hawks, are not too thrilled with maybe what comes out of this trip as well. Could that be, this relationship could be more vulnerable than we think?
Look, I think it's no different when Cooks visited China and others. I mean, it's all part of this 10% politician, 90% CEO, right? When you look at Musk, I'd say almost the same for Cook. But when you look at Tesla, it is massively important within China. And it's very important to have Musk, I think, a very important part of the EV environment within China. And I think that's something where this visit, the timing's important, because like you say, the geopolitical, it's a cold tech war. But China needs Musk, and that's why, and vice versa. And I think this is a huge positive that will be very viewed favorably by investors tomorrow.
Yeah, Dan, I want to get your thoughts on something that Steve brought up as well. Steve, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
No, that's okay. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, let me take it then. So one of the things, Dan, that was brought up last week by not just one, a couple of guests, was it's not simply price that is a challenge for Tesla in China. To Steve's earlier point, the product lineup and the perception that a lot of the Chinese car makers have an offering that is either not just cheaper, but gives more value for Chinese consumers. That's the issue. And I'm wondering, Dan, whether or not you think it's a product offering issue as well in China for Tesla.
Look, I think Musk addressed that in the call. I mean, you will have what I view as a sub $30,000 vehicle by early next year. That comes not just globally, but we'll see in China. But just like we've seen with Apple, I mean, the Tesla brand is unique globally, and it's part of what Musk has built. And obviously, competition is going to continue to be fierce in China. But many consumers within China, they want to be driving a Tesla. And I think that's something where maybe a little blooms come off the rose, but there's a rebound that we see on the horizon within China. And that's why Beijing's courting Musk, just like Musk is courting China.
Dan, how much is the data security issue going to be a hurdle, if you will, for Tesla? I know they've been storing their data from Chinese Teslas in Shanghai since about 2021, complying with Chinese law. But again, it is a big issue geopolitically and commercial viability as well here in China. As well, the second part of that is the safety concerns. We all know that autopilot, there's a launch of an investigation in the U.S. about 20 accidents since December. Is FSD, the second part of this question, is FSD significantly, potentially safer than autopilot?
Yeah, look, and Stephen, you ask great questions because I think for one, maybe a year ago it's not there, but now if you look at FSD 12 and you look at what they've done at Tesla, I think it's ready for prime time. In other words, I'd be surprised if China doesn't green light this technology, given where it's going. And then to some extent, like the security issues, look, a lot of the data will have to be kept in Shanghai, just like we've seen since 2021. But in terms of the algorithms and in terms of actual that data, it is important from a Tesla perspective that something that can be used globally as part of their, what I view as their unique technology ramp. And this is, look, it's a balancing act. But that's why Musk is there breaking bread to sort of navigate these challenges that I ultimately believe he'll be successful in.
So, I mean, you still haven't outperformed for the stock, Dan. 275 is the price target. We're hovering around 168 for the stock here right now. Beyond just the FSD stuff in China, what else needs to happen really to get to that target now, you think?
Yeah, look, demand, especially resurgence in the second half of the year. We know it's going to be tough in terms of, coming into 2Q. I think numbers are set well in terms of now for the street. And I think investors are looking through this because if you start to see a resurgence in U.S., Europe, especially in China, with FSD, the golden goose, this is a stock that starts to hit north of 200. I think that, in our opinion, that Category 5 nightmare that we've seen, that storm for Tesla, a lot of that's in the rearview mirror.
Understood. Dan, just a quick thought there, since Yvonne brought up earnings as well, and whether the stock has bottomed. Have margins bottomed, or are there any early signs that margins are about to bottom? Because one of the guests told us last week, when that bottoms, the stock bottoms.
I think margins are in the processing of bottoming, and it goes back to the New York City cab drivers bearish on Tesla going into earnings. So I think we've navigated a lot of that, and now I think it's set up for a lot more positive surprise, and this is just one. FSD in China, if that gets unlocked, it would be a game changer for the stock.